Hi, art students. Mr. Johnson here. Today we are going to talk about the element of line. So to start us off, we're going to watch this awesome video about line, and it's going to talk about a lot of the different ways line can be used in art and a lot of line's properties as an art element. So let's take a look right here.
The element of line.
Mm-hmm.
Line is the path of a moving point through space. Artists typically use line to depict edges, making line capable of portraying anything you can see. And line can depict abstract ideas as well. So line can portray pretty much everything. But line also has another superpower, the ability to convey emotion. These
Yes.
emotive qualities of line are direction, rhythm, angularity, weight, and style.
Draws.
All right, direction. Because we know that if we set an object on a flat surface, it will stay at rest. And when we rest our bodies, we lay flat. A horizontal line can often have a restful, calming effect. Conversely, because we are all familiar with the downward pull of gravity, a vertical line can carry a sense of weight and force. Diagonal lines are trickier. In the Western world, reading trains us to scan from left to right. So most of us will see this diagonal line as moving upward, which is associated with ascent and improvement. Conversely, this diagonal line is typically interpreted as moving downward, which is associated with decline. Next, we have rhythm. A rhythmic line feels orderly, predictable, easy to analyze, which can make it relaxing. An arrhythmic or irregular line feels disorderly and unpredictable, which can be agitating. The angularity of a line can also be emotive. Experience tells us that sharp edges can hurt us, so acute angles can often feel dangerous and aggressive. Conversely, smooth, gentle curves feel safe, fluid, and are often more inviting. Speaking of angles and curves, the consistent use of 90-degree angled lines gets its own cool name, rectilinear. Conversely, a randomly curved line is often called organic. The weight of a line refers to its thickness. Thin lines feel delicate, graceful. Thick lines can feel bold, aggressive, even angry. Lastly, the style of a line refers to a range of other possible qualities, including dashed and dotted lines, which often imply a trail or cut line. Variable width lines, which offer a sense of motion and speed. And textured lines that can feel hand-drawn and more personal. So there it is, the amazingly versatile and incredibly emotive element of line.
So let's take a look at a lot of these characteristics of the element of line. So there are many types of lines like thick, thin, horizontal, vertical, a zigzag, diagonal, curly, curved, spiral, as many as you can think of, right? There are different ways to create a line. Here on the screen are just a few examples that we have seen some of in that video, but there are some other ones here. And just take a look at how the lines are expressed, how they change. Where lines do not just have to be straight, they don't just have to be horizontal or vertical. Lines can change thickness as they're used, they don't have to stay the same. They can be broken, dashed, thick or thin, they can spiral. So there are so many different ways that you can use line when creating an artistic composition. So one of the types of line that we're going to use a lot in the beginning of the year is a contour line. And a contour line is the outside edge of a shape. So something that does not include shading, right, or value or anything like that, but a contour drawing just shows edges. So if you were doing a contour drawing, right, of a hand like this, you would have lines that go around the edges, and then you would also go on the edges of all the creases in here. It would show these lines. But it wouldn't show any of the shading that you see. There are blind contour drawings. There are modified contour drawings. And these are all different exercises you can use to begin using the element of line. So let's take a look at a few of the different ways that you can use line in an artwork. The first one is as a contour line. Now, that defines the edges of an object that we just looked at. So there's an example here with the leaves that just shows the edges. Now, a blind contour drawing is done when an artist does not look at their paper. They're looking only at the subject and moving their pen or pencil on the paper, but they're not looking down. So sometimes the drawings become funky. The lines don't necessarily line up, but they're a lot of fun. A modified contour is when you're looking carefully at the edges of a subject and occasionally looking down at the paper. Now, cross contour lines reflect the movement of your eye around an object. So they help to show depth and form. So if you're drawing something round, a cross contour line would curve around the surface to show that the subject is round. Gestural lines are loose and fast, drawn very quickly, usually just to capture motion or the idea of a subject. And then observational drawing is often started all from lines to a place where your subjects are on the page. So let's look at a few drawings and talk about their use of line. So in this artwork called Drawing Hands by artist M.C. Escher, the line in here I think is beautiful. So you can see that on the sleeves and the collars of these shirts, he has used contour line. And those are lines, right, that just show the edges of subjects. They show an idea of a fold here, and that's all. And then as they blend up into the top of the hand and the fingers, he adds shading and value and texture and all these amazing things. So I love this because the line is such a cool element of this artwork. And I think you really notice the way that Escher uses lines in this particular drawing that are all about the same thickness. None of them are straight, even lines. They're all a little bit wavy, which I think gives them the illusion more of being hand-drawn. And I think they're just really beautiful to look at. So this is a drawing by Jack Kirby, who along with Stan Lee created most of the iconic characters in the Marvel Universe, including the Fantastic Four. Now this is his illustration for the cover to Fantastic Four number 86 from the 1960s. So here you have the Fantastic Four at the bottom. This is Crystal, one of the Inhumans. I'm a nerd, so I know these things. And then a giant Doctor Doom figure over the top. But what I want you to notice about this drawing, this is all done with lines, but Jack Kirby varies the thickness of the lines to create visual interest and dynamic elements to the composition. So if you take a look at Doctor Doom here, to make him larger and more imposing, the lines are much thicker around Doctor Doom than they are around most of the Fantastic Four. That gives him a larger, more imposing sense. Also, look at all of the diagonal lines that reach out in multiple different directions. That gives a sense of energy to the pose. Then if you look down at the Fantastic Four, let's look at Mr. Fantastic over here on the left. Jack Kirby uses thicker lines like towards the bottom edge of the form. So if you look at his arm here, the bottom line here is a lot thicker. Right, his leg, the bottom line is thicker than the top line. Right here, the bottom line is thicker than the top line. And that gives an illusion of form, that it's three-dimensional, that it's weighted. He does the same thing in a lot of areas, even using dark lines here to depict the rocks that make up the thing. And then for this rocky background, because he doesn't want it to compete with the Fantastic Four characters, these are much thinner, softer lines so that they're still obvious, but they don't compete quite as much. Jack Kirby was an amazing illustrator who used line in a lot of incredible ways. So your task, after learning about line, is to create 12 small line compositions like the one you see here. So on a page in your sketchbook, draw 12 little rectangle boxes. You can do them all on one page so they don't have to be large. And come up with 12 totally different compositions. Use lines that are horizontal, vertical, diagonal, curved, curled, swirly, lines that are thin, thick, jagged, straight, wavy. Right? Try all different types of line variations. Include multiple different variations of line in each box, right? Like the ones here. So none of these are just straight lines or just horizontal lines, I should say. They all have multiple different types of lines in them. Thin, thick, right? Horizontal, vertical. So try to come up with different interesting line designs, make at least 12, make each one unique, be creative and have fun. Don't use any of these four, right? These are some of examples for you, but come up with 12 of your own and make sure that you take a photo of that for your digital sketchbook. Yeah, if you want to see some other examples of line designs, you can scroll back through the video where you can find more on the internet. Thanks for watching.